Hello, I'm Johannes, behalf of Hammer Broadcasting Service. This English program, I have a best guest, none other than Mark, all the way from Rwanda. And thank you, Mark. This is the English service we have in a service guest, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
Good
so
to
much.
have you here.
It's a pleasure.
And
Thank
real
you
life.
for inviting me.
Wonderful time.
Yes.
So we met through our best friend
Yes.
in Rwanda.
Yes.
I was doing a leadership program for Kurumbuka.
Yes.
So we met a couple times again. Then we know we have something in common.
Yeah.
And something you do not only in Rwanda and Africa, but throughout the world.
Yes.
I'm really impressed. So I'm so happy to have you, and I'm honored to have you as a guest here.
It's an honor for me.
Mark, you do a lot of work, tremendous work. I'm really, really impressed.
Thank you.
Many presidents, including our prime minister and his wife, and involve Walk to Remember through the peace movement you do. Can you tell us what about it, and can you tell us what it is?
Yeah. The peace movement you're talking about is Peace and Love Proclaimers, which is a youth organization that I founded with my friends when we were still in high school, in our last year of secondary school.
Wow.
And we wanted to create a youth movement where youth themselves can lead the change that happens in Rwanda.
Okay.
So Peace and Love Proclaimers started in 2007. And from there, we created more activities that we would do. But our main aim was not to do other big activities. Our main aim was that ourselves, we change because we thought we are the youth for change. So in order for that change to happen, then we need to change ourselves. So that's the beginning or the genesis of my journey, but also the journey of PLP from that time to this time. So you talked about the Walk to Remember.
Walk to Remember, yes,
was an idea that I came up with around 2008.
Okay.
After I was wondering if mass atrocities happen, what should we do that people ask why, so that we're able to tell them we're walking to remember the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi, and now we can teach them and say these are the causes of that. So we were lucky to have various heads of states who came, but also the Prime Minister of Ethiopia.
Yes, his wife.
His wife, Abiy Ahmed, also managed to come to one of those in Kigali. Yeah.
Wow, so wonderful. And not only the Prime Minister here, but also many, Samantha Power and other people. Like, can you mention just those people who joined that movement?
Of course, the first guest is our president, President Paul Kagame.
Okay.
And the reason I started with him was, I think it was in 2010.
Okay.
There was this thing that our leaders have called the Unity Club. So they usually go behind closed doors to discuss the unity of Rwanda.
Yeah, okay.
And we happened to be invited as young people to also give our voice.
Wow.
And after the discussion we had there, I got to have a one-on-one with him, and then he was asking me who I am, and I was answering, and then I told him about PLP, Peace and Love Proclaimers Youth for Change, but I also told him about Walk to Remember, and he said, oh, that's a great idea, and then he said he would come. So he becomes our first guest, head of state, and of course the First Lady, and I think all these other heads of state who came because he came, because they were his
because
guests.
he endorsed it.
Yeah, he endorsed it.
Absolutely.
And also that shows the work that he does in Rwanda for the young people. Other people have come. We've had Tony Blair.
Tony Blair, okay.
Yeah, Olusegun Obasanjo from Nigeria. We've had Thabo Mbeki. Samantha Power has also been a part of it, among others.
So now it's happening every year?
Yes, it hasn't happened in the past 3 years because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
But before that, it was happening every year. And it's not only happened in Rwanda, it happens globally.
Globally?
Yes.
For this cause?
Yes.
Wow. So how the other nation globally catch this vision?
By sending agents of change.
Okay.
So when we started, remember we are in high school.
High school, yeah.
These are teenagers. They're passionate. We've gone through training. We've sent them to different places. We started raising money to send young people in other countries.
Okay.
But also as they go to school in other countries, they go with the vision.
Okay.
and then now they start creating their own chapters. So those chapters also catch on and create other chapters. So it wasn't like a thing we foresaw that that's what would happen. But eventually when we thought about expanding and going global, the people who had been our members who are going to these countries actually took the vision there.
Wow, wonderful. So what do you like to see happening because of that, right? Like what's, people could walk, then what's the message there? Beside having great get-together, what's the end result for you there?
So the walk itself is the last part of Walk to Remember.
Okay.
The actual program, Walk to Remember, is put together in such a way that we have what we call the power of image. So the power of image is the part where we train different people in different places about mass atrocities, but also the choices that people make in those mass atrocities. So that becomes the training, and usually that's what people don't see because we're going to different places, teaching different people. And you can ask yourself, how do all these people come? So when after we train people, now we send them to mobilize. Now they have a message that they're going to teach and train others.
TOT, trainer of trainers.
So they're like trainers of trainers. But now they're going to meet other people, tell them what it is, how they're doing it, how do we fight these mass killings and crimes against humanity, and then also getting their buy-in to come and join. And then from there, we come to the actual walk. Now, the actual walk is divided in 3 phases. There's the walking part, which symbolizes to walk from the darkness to the light. And then when we get to the venue, there is the names that we read, 100 names. Now, 100 names represent 100 days of genocide. And during the genocide against the Tutsi, there are over 10,000 people killed every day. If you do the numbers, you'll find that per hour, there are over 400 people killed. And if you go below, there are 7 people killed every minute. Now, when we read
Say the last word, how many?
7
per
people
minute?
killed per minute.
Per minute.
Yes.
Wow.
And when you look at those details, you find that when you remember when we are reading the 100 names, we are making sure that we go for every day that name is representing people who are killed on that day. So these are over 10,000 people. But also they're divided in 3 categories. There is the older generation, there is the middle-aged generation, and the young generation. Now, in our culture in Rwanda, the older generation carried on the values that guided our community. So when they were killing people during the genocide and they were killing the older generation, they were killing that chain of values that come from generation to generation. In the people who are middle-aged, they are the strength of a nation. They serve in the police, in the hospital, in schools, in businesses.
Leaders somewhere.
They're leaders in different places. When they are killing them, they are killing the power of a nation. But also they are being killed by other people who are the power of a nation. So literally we're destroying ourselves. And then the last part is the young people who are from 0 all the way to 18 years. And these are usually the hope and the future of a nation. So when we do that, the last names, those of the young people, we light candles. And these candles as a symbol of us saying we are committing that this will never happen again, but also taking the hope where it's not, because now we usually do it in the evenings and there is darkness, and when we light up our candles, the light pushes away the darkness. So that is the walk to remember. People see one part, but before that, we've trained people, we've mobilized them, they know why they are walking, but also there is a commitment that we make that going forward will not be the same people. We're going to be different. We're going to strive for our unity. We're going to find solutions to other things. So that is Walk to Remember, and that's what Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also joined.
Oh, so wonderful. It's really very inspiring because I think only the walk part, but I didn't know the education part, the training part behind it. So what took you to work globally? Like, you go to Harvard, many times I met you already, you are already planning, already traveling, already coming. So, what took you all the way to globally? How do you get that center stage and in order to share that value with the other nation?
I think when you have something of value, other people will see it.
Catch it,
And when you have a vision, then other people can also run with it. I think that's where we get it wrong at times, where we think we are small in ourselves and we think small, I got a chance to work with an organization called Aegis Trust. And Aegis Trust hired me to create a movement of young people. So I told them, hey, I'm not going to create another movement since we already have PLP. It will be me working to...
PLP stand for?
Peace and Love Proclaims.
Peace and Love
Proclaims. So they told me, what do you want to do? So I started the Youth Champions Program. Now, the Youth Champions Program is also based on how do we train people in two values. The values are empathy, critical thinking, and personal responsibility. And then when we train them those values, they go now and go back in their own communities to find which problems are in their community. When they find those problems, they bring them to us. And then we, together, we start coming up with solutions. And in those solutions, they create projects that they take in their own communities and they work in their own communities. So we started with training 100 young people, and then those 100 created a network. You find one group that they have created has like 30 young people. So from 100 now we're getting somewhere around 300 people. And then it kept on growing. As it kept on growing, now we started taking it to other countries like Central African Republic, like South Sudan, to see how do we work with different people. But also we partnered with other organizations like the Joburg Holocaust and Genocide Center to create something called the Change Makers, where we can now take it in different parts of Africa, doing it in South Africa, in Namibia, in Mozambique, in Zambia, in Nigeria, in the Gambia, and in all these other places.
Not Ethiopia yet.
Not Ethiopia yet. You haven't invited us yet. But the moment you invite us, we'll come in and do the training. Because I think it's something that is needed by the whole world.
Very true.
So that's how I start doing that. But now my role evolves to come from just being Rwanda and going on the African continent and going global. And then now I started having students coming in, some from the States, universities like William and Mary, Wartburg College, and many other universities. So when they came in,
North Carolina and Harvard and other places.
Yes. So when they came in, they started now inviting me to go lecture in their own universities. So that's how I was invited by the Harvard Law School to go and give a lecture on I called it the Hutu power and white supremacism. Where do they meet? And then that's what I spoke about in Harvard, at Harvard University. But also I had training with Tufts University, where we now dealt with the issue of forgiveness. How do we come from being wounded people to forgiving? What's the journey, and what does each one take out of it? And then go to other schools. You talked about William and Mary, UNCW in North Carolina, but also Coventry University in the UK. And this year, actually 2023, I was the Lord Mayor's Peace Lecturer at the St. Mary's Guildhall, which was invited by the Lord Mayor of Coventry University. So these, and Coventry is a city of forgiveness, so that shows the work that I've done. So the recognition comes from the work I've done over the years, but also meeting people who appreciate what you're doing, and they say, oh, you're doing this and you're doing it very well. Why don't you bring the same message where we are? So those are the people who propel me, propel us, and then they can take it to different places.
Oh, so wonderful. That's really great. So if you don't mind right now, just if you walk us through, like, just even we could hear bits and there and here about Rwanda genocide stuff, like just even how things, start to where we are now, like, just even in a short way, if you describe it, like, just can you able to?
I think we'll have the whole day.
The whole day, yes,
But I think the genocide against the Tutsi doesn't start in Rwanda. The whole planning starts from Europe. Somewhere, where people like Stuart Chamberlain write books. You can talk about people like Arthur de Gorbino, who was a French diplomat in Sweden, who looks at the people there and he says, these should be the real white people. And then from that, they write different writings that are eventually used in Europe and in America. And in these, they have theories and theses that look at the sons of Noah, where they create what they call the sons of Japhet, who are the Aryan race, and then they have the sons of Shem, and then they have the sons of Ham. Now, with the sons of Japhet, they call themselves the master race, and that master race, the blessed one, the leaders, the most beautiful, the intelligent, And then they have another one, which is the Shemites, who now we have Semites. When you say anti-Semitism, people can understand that. But also they say the one who is cursed, Ham, comes down to Africa. And by coming to Africa, he walks down all the way to Rwanda, I was saying. And then they say these are the Tutsis. So the people like, if you look at people like Eugene Fisher in Namibia, with the Nama and the Herero, they kill very many people when they are trying to sanctify that theory that the Aryan race is more superior to the rest of the people. So by that, they kill lots of people. They take their skulls to Germany. And I think it's a few, maybe 2-3 years ago, they were talking about some skulls that they found, some authors in Tanzania, but also in Rwanda, they say there are some of the skulls that they were taking
Skulls?
There. Yes, skulls that they were taken there. And the main reason was they are looking at how big the brains of Africans are compared to the others. And they came up with a thesis that people like you and me have smaller brains. Which is not true, right? So it's the same thing that is used in Rwanda in the early 1930s, where they now start measuring the eyes, the nose and the circumference of the head. But they use something that already existed. The economic classes that were there, Hutu, Tutsi, Twa. They say, no. These Tutsis were not from here. They came from
Ethiopia.
Abyssinia.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they came to conquer you over many years. And this is what they have done. Now they're trying to create a narrative that didn't exist before. But they had caused other issues by then. They introduced things like coffee, things like tea. They introduced kiboko, which is a whip that they're beating people. And the main reason for that was when they did that, they would take your land and then you'd work for them. You'd plant your coffee and tea, and they'd use it as an economic thing. They introduced taxes, which were beyond the means of the people. So now they start creating difficult living conditions. And when people have difficult living conditions, they start in-grouping to try to find a solution and
survive
and a way of survival. So now they created an enemy.
Somebody to blame.
Somebody to blame. So they created the Tutsi, and they said these are the people who caused all the trouble. And when I think King Rudahigwa went to Europe and realized they're human just like him, he wanted to go to the League of Nations to ask for independence. But
That's
killed.
the Rwandan king.
That's the Rwandan king.
When year is that?
I think in the late 50s.
Late 50s,
yes.
1950s.
1950s. So he's killed. But as he's killed, then this group of people, the Tutsis, are dehumanized and demonized by then by these colonial masters who also have a hand in what they formed. So they tried to get rid of the monarch, but the people said we cannot bury a king because our tradition says when a king dies, we cannot bury him without his replacement. So what they had thought they were going to do to get rid of the monarch, now it was impossible because the people refused. Now that they had refused, they started finding another way. That's now getting this group, some elite people, and then they tell them, oh, you are going to fight against these Tutsis, as what they said. And then 1959, we get the first killings. So a huge number of people is killed. Some flee the country, but by the time the independence starts, in what they call the Hutu Revolution, they have already started it with blood. And of course impunity. 1962 there is independence. 1963 they kill again. So 1966
that's how Rwanda became free from Belgium.
So they say. 1962.
Okay, 62.
Yes,
okay,
they
62.
say Rwanda's become so because Rwanda was a country in the early 1100. So we had already been a country that had a king that was already structured for all those hundreds of years. Right. But now they come up with this propaganda. They are well more sophisticated. And by 1963, they're killing people mostly in western, northwestern Rwanda and some parts of southern Rwanda. And by killing them, they cause a mass exodus of people. The New York Times, I think of 1964, talks about the first group of Tutsis, and they term it a genocide in 1964. So those killings continue in many other years. And by that continuation leads us to 1994, where they create from the in the early years, they had created what they call the Hutu power, but now in the 90s, they refine it. In 1993, they create the Autodefense Civile, where they get young Hutu men and they start training them. I think 800 of them from different districts, and then they arm them. They're getting ready for what's going to happen. And then, people like Theonest Bagosora talks about preparing an apocalypse. It's a thing that had been prepared before, but now it goes to 1994. It's actually structured. People, they have lists, they have where people live, and all they needed was someone to spark it. And if you read the book by Antoine Rutaisire.
Yes, I did.
You read the book?
Yes.
My Life is Forgiveness.
Yeah, My Life is Forgiveness.
So in that book, he talks about this gentleman who was the head of the African Evangelical Enterprise, and his family, who in 1993 started talking about telling people to repent because there was an imminent genocide that was going to happen. And in January, I think January 7th, 1994, they killed him and his entire family. He wasn't a Tutsi, but he was talking about things that are going to happen. And they kill him. Because they warned him, Because he was warning them. And of course, 1994 happens from April, when the president's plane was crushed. That was just an excuse. They already had the terms and plan to kill him. So they kill over 1 million people in those 100 days. So I've tried to run through it, from where it starts from to where it leads us. But it leaves a fractured nation. But also from 1962 to 1994, leaders were in between made terrible choices. They did not make choices that unite us as a people. They made choices to divide people. We can talk about the same thing. Kayibanda, by then the then president, talks about Tutsis not being from Rwanda. Now imagine, that's the narrative that he's creating. Instead of choosing people to be united, to deal with different issues, they start now talking about being divided, and they're using it as a tool. Remember, mind you, these people are poor. It's not as if they have anything, right? But they're using it as a tool of that narrative, of that propaganda, to make sure that now people think of them as the enemy, instead of concentrating on the actual issues that are in the country. And of course, 1994 eventually happens, and as planned as it was, it takes very many lives.
I know that we are rushing through because there's so many things happen, but I want to just pause on a few things, because before genocide happened, right? Just here's people in Rwanda, they speak one language, Kinyarwanda. And people in Rwanda, they live together. There's no places like one tribe live in one place. There's no even such things, different culture. And in fact, what I heard about it, was they cannot differentiate. That's why they just okay, those with the cows have 10 cows more. Just we're gonna make you Tutsi. You have less cows, you become Hutu. Right? That's how they. Then they try to put I think in 1950s they put it in an ID because they cannot.
1930s. 1930s.
Okay. So they put a new ID. So the tribe name. And because they cannot differentiate, right? They try to say if you are tall, skinny, and whatever, you are this. But even though there's no such things there's no demarcation. The line of tribe, it could go up and down a scale of the cows or not. And that's just mind-boggling for me, just to see how they were looking for difference. That's why they're measuring the nose, right? Just looking for the eyes stuff. The ears stuff, to just try to differentiate that much, dehumanize from one to another, classification stuff.
I think what I can say about that is when people get in the rhythm of hatred, they become creative, right? So if you can think about it in this way, someone else has given you the ID cards. That's done in, I think, in the 1930s. And then they have done that, they have given ID cards. People start now understanding who the other is. It's not something you're hiding. It's not an issue. It has been there before. It was your class, but now it has changed. So that ethnic group is not an issue in itself. The problem is the people who use it to control the masses.
Divide and conquer.
So they now start using it as a tool. And with time, people who didn't have an issue with each other start looking at each other as if they're enemies. People who share the same language start looking at each other as enemies.
Groups,
people who are here,
Yeah.
and then the people who came from other parts of the world.
Just the narrative they heard.
So they have
Nobody
created-
saw anybody coming, right?
Nobody saw that. So there's
Yeah.
this theory that has been put in place.
Yeah.
And the good thing, it's a theory,
Yeah.
right? And people at times take theories to be the truth, right? So they have set a theory in place, and now people start looking at, oh, the hands, are these lines attaching? If they are not attaching, then you're Tutsi. If they are touching, then you're Hutu. They start looking at legs. If they start looking at all kinds of things that would make people, start saying, can you put 2 fingers in your nose?
Wow.
If it's wide enough, then you're Hutu. If it's not, then you're Tutsi.
Wow. Wow.
And they're becoming creative
Yeah.
in ways of killing the other.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when our minds
Yeah.
are used for evil instead of being used
That's
for
good.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
So we take our creativity
Yeah.
and we become more evil,
Yeah. Yeah.
coming up with ways to differentiate us, ways to push the other on the other side. And I wonder what usually people think are going to benefit from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just also, I was just, visiting the memorial,
Yeah.
the genocide memorial,
Yeah.
and I saw the speech made by, is that the president or like one of the minister, even teaching in university how to kill
The
snakes.
Prime Minister. There was a university lecturer, but also there is also Kambanda, who was the Prime Minister during the genocide.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, yeah.
He was saying like, we're going to send you, you came from Ethiopia, we're going to send you on a shortcut through this river,
Yes,
the river
Akajela.
Akajela.
Yeah.
So, but I was just watching it. This guy, elected prime minister,
Yeah.
somebody powerful, but stupid or ignorance or purposely stupid, telling them, and even because of just like leading this ship or like those who don't know,
Yeah.
they are not thinking,
Yes.
because the river doesn't come to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Because that river go to
Rwanda,
Victoria Lake,
Uganda.
From
Sudan,
Uganda,
South
that's how
Sudan.
start the Jinja,
Yeah.
the beginning of Nile, the
Yes.
longest river.
Yes.
But they go through Khartoum,
by the
doesn't
way-
come to, yeah.
By the way, the farthest source of the Nile is in Rwanda.
Thank you. Thank you. The Uganda's claiming it, we just start with us.
I said the farthest
The
source.
farthest, okay,
Yes.
the farthest source, yeah, because they go to,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for reminding us. But,
Yeah.
so that's something like, just, I was really like, how you could lead, because I'm sure this genocide start
Yeah.
from ignorance, right?
Okay.
Because ignorance create fear, scarcity, what we don't know, we don't trust, what we don't know, what we don't trust, we hate,
Yeah.
right? What we fear, we hate,
Yes.
what we hate, we want to destroy it.
Yes.
So in the end, they're using that narrative,
Yeah.
and they came from Ethiopia. Now we're going to send them to Ethiopia,
Yes.
and through this river. But none of that,
Reaches there. And you
reaching
can
that.
imagine Leo Mugesera, when he was giving that speech, was a university lecturer.
Yeah.
So he's not just looked at as just an ignorant person. He's looked at as someone who is elite. And
Yes.
you're talking about this
Yeah.
at a time where our universities were not producing very many students
yeah.
from the university.
Yeah.
So now we have over 30,000. That same university produces over 30,000 every year.
Yeah.
And other universities produce others.
Yeah.
But from 1962 to 1994, the university had produced only somewhere around 25 or 30,000 people. I'm not so sure about the numbers. But there are very few. And those who are looked at, and that also is a system of discrimination, because there's some people who are not allowed to
be
get
in
the
university.
education
Yeah, absolutely.
and get to a certain level.
Absolutely.
And even those who are educated,
They're
what
not
are they
allowed to
educated
job. Yeah,
about?
yeah.
about
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm saying even those who are educated, they have been taken through a propaganda and a certain narrative that in their minds they don't think the way they should think as normal elites. So my question there, and this is something I question myself, is it that he was ignorant about it, or was it that it was intentional deception? He intentionally wanted to deceive these people because he knows they're not going to read from any book.
Yeah,
He knows they're not going to
They
think
don't question it. Yeah.
They're not going to
Yeah,
question it.
yeah.
So they're going to take it as
Interesting.
gospel truth. So it becomes an intentional deception to this group of people to start thinking a certain way. Oh, actually these people came from Ethiopia. But he forgets that the White Nile, is it the White Nile?
Yeah, the White Nile.
The White Nile coming from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
By the
I
time
mean, the Blue Nile go to Ethiopia, meet in
the White Nile.
In Khartoum.
Yes. So by the time it comes from Ethiopian meeting, it's the water coming from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
It's not coming from
exactly
the other way around.
Exactly.
And that might be intentional, but to prove a point that these people are not from here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They have where they belong, and where they belong is not here. Now, if that group, I don't know how many they are at that point in time, but had they chosen to come to Ethiopia, even Ethiopians would have had trouble.
Absolutely.
Saying, Absolutely. You come all the way from the other side.
Exactly. Yeah.
You see what I mean? So that is a narrative that people intentionally put in place to prove a point.
See, out of that false narrative, but life being taken, the country being destroyed and put in upside down.
Yes.
So can you tell us, there were, when the president of Uganda and Rwanda and Burundi, they were in one plane, like they just did some kind of agreement to power sharing. That's what I heard.
Rwanda and Burundi?
No. Just there was some agreement.
So there was a peace
agreement.
A peace. There was
ceasefire.
Peace talks that were going on in Arusha.
Yeah, Arusha. Yes.
And when it happened, I think, according to narratives I've heard, is that President Habyarimana thought that there are people who had wanted to kill him. Okay. So one of the things he did was to take his army chief of staff and take him with him.
Okay.
Usually, apparently, that never happens.
Okay.
But when he takes him with him, when he's going to come back, he thinks, let me take another head of state. Because if I take another head of state, maybe they'll not think about killing
him. Yeah.
But that tells you that he already knew
something going on.
Yes, with him.
Yeah.
But he was also thinking that his inner circle was going to do it.
Yeah.
That's why he chose the army chief of staff to go with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, let me take a head of state.
Yeah.
Saying, you know what, we'll drop you, and then it takes you to Burundi. It's just 26 minutes flight from Kigali to Bujumbura.
Okay.
And then they shoot down the plane.
Yeah.
So both presidents died in the plane. Yeah.
Yeah. So immediately he died in an hour. They blocked road. No, before that they just killed who got killed in a house with including the Belgium.
The prime minister.
The prime minister. The lady.
Yes, Agatha. Yeah.
Oh, she was a Hutu.
She was.
But she was nominant, right? She won't agree with the killing.
Yes, she wasn't.
That's why she got killed.
Yeah, and that's very important.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference between Hutu power and Hutus.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because Hutu power is an ideology that teaches to hate Tutsis and eradicate them.
Okay.
That ideology is still remnant in different places. Okay. Right? But Hutus as a people, it's not a problem.
It's a problem, yeah. So she got killed because she don't agree with just
the Hutu power.
Those Hutu power.
Yeah.
Because when that's, she might be in ex-power or something like that. So whose army took over and they start blocking the road and just start killing?
So then the special forces, the presidential guards, take over.
Okay.
They take over, put roadblocks in place.
Okay.
Some people from the French army that was there to support them go to where the plane had gone. The black box has been lost ever since.
Yeah.
We haven't had it. But this place is already surrounded by the special forces. But also the other truth is, where the plane fell was close to where we were when we were having dinner, which is a military barracks in Kanombe, which was run, close to where the president lived.
Yeah.
So that place, the army had it under control.
Yes, yeah.
So they
nobody could come in.
Nobody could
from
come
that
in
place
or
could do
get
that,
out.
except nobody outsider can do that.
Yeah. So they do that, and they block, the area.
Yeah.
But now they also start setting up roadblocks. But now whom they're targeting politicians.
Okay.
Those people would have spoken out and people listened.
Yeah.
So they started targeting them to make sure that they can silence them.
Okay.
You see.
Wow. They cannot escape.
Yeah, they cannot escape. And this is Hutu politicians and Tutsi politicians alike were there. Yeah.
Wow.
And you can imagine, had it only been Tutsi politicians, then it would have been, this is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But they also knew that there would be a voice of dissent. Thus, they went even for those other politicians who did not agree with them. Because had they spoken out, some people would have listened. And that they didn't want that to happen.
Because they don't want it to be stopped.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's really, just like you think any human mind, people would be thinking with early on we are thinking like critical mass, critical thinking.
Yeah.
Unless people question, it's easy to be animal victim mentality, just group thinking, just go do killing. So you're saying like early on like just when you dehumanize somebody, first you have to deny your humanity.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Humans are not created to kill other humans because there is that sacredness of life. And you see it when someone says someone has died. We all aghast, in a way, because we are created with eternity within us. But whenever people want to take humanity of the others, they start by telling you the issues you're going through, right? And they brainwash you. But what they're doing they're trying to rob you of your humanity so that you can be able to do what they want you to do, right? So that's taking your humanity, and then when it's gone, it can be easily for me to take your life.
Absolutely.
Because now, since I don't have the human in me, then when I view you, I don't see you as a human anymore. So then I can take your humanity.
I just want you maybe to tell us a little bit how the media play a role.
Oh man. There are things that happen in this day and age that I look at and I'm like, come on, world. You haven't learned from Rwanda? Really? You see. So the media played a significant role from written media, where they were drawing cartoons, they were taking different narratives, but also to mass media publications like radio stations and TV stations. There was a TV and radio station that was created in Rwanda called RTLM, Radio Télévision des Mille Collines. And this TV and radio station, their main aim was to spew out that propaganda that the national radio station would not do. Now, they were doing part of it, but this was explicit hatred, to a point that they would also call out people who were supposed to be killed. These and these have been killed, but they think they're hiding in this place. You can find them in this place. Right. And then also encouraging people. And they had programming set to make sure that they they brainwash masses. And we are an oral society. So things that we hear on the radio, we feel like they're condoned by the government. So if the government has accepted it, then who should stop me?
Exactly.
So media plays a big part in not only creating programs that brainwash people, but also making it normalizing the killing of people and the hatred of the other. So by them normalizing that, they made it easy for even those who would have questioned to feel like, oh, well, if this is the case, it's accepted. And they started even going to churches, using the Bible to say, these are the snakes. If a snake bites you, you should crush the head of a snake before it bites you. And you can imagine, in a country where we had 98% Christians, the issue is that those Christians could not even read their own Bibles. Because they see a narrative through, they hear the media. Yes,
I think,
and that narrative, sorry I cut you short, and that narrative, the moment they receive it, they take it as truth. They don't even go to question it. Yes.
Because also how human mind work, right? Like even with the social media right now, that time there's no social media. But now everybody could be a journalist. Everybody could, spread fake news, even fake video stuff. Anybody could do anything else. And also people are categorized. Before we have one media, you could listen whether you like it or not. But now we just, more, we have preference. We see in group on our group. So, something, the narrative I like, I could hear that or listen that or subscribe that. So I think the whole world and my media, just all I see that one because algorithm, right? How work in the media stuff. And also like how even fake news could spread 30 times more than real news. If it's bleed is lead, almost like bad news become more news stuff. So then even right now, it could affect more because the same structure, the human mind. For example, when January 6th, happened in the United States, and when Trump's and Vice President tried to the process. So those who extremely support Trump, even when they see it in the news and they see it in other news, they skip it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't line up with the narrative they have.
Yeah.
Even though that's truth's happening,
Yeah.
they not. So now everybody just like, you know, all day long, they scroll down until they find something they like.
Yes.
So if they cannot balance, could hear from the other side group,
Yeah.
they be listening only their group.
Yes.
Right? Because their attachment is the source of all suffering, because they attach themselves, I belong to this group, I belong to this tribe, I belong to this. Now everything what they tell me, I'm listening, because the low level of awareness is animal. They're just following that. So that's something, the magnitude right now with the social media.
Yes.
We were saying earlier, like, I wish people could learn from Rwanda.
Yeah.
And it could go more.
Yes. The narrative that has been created makes us think a certain way. And it's high time that we started training even the young people to start wondering and thinking, why do I think the way I think? What's the reason behind the media that I'm getting? Because it's very important for people to be to be critical thinkers, even the young minds to be critical thinkers. Why? Because every media out there has an agenda. And that might sound terrible in a way, because when you say agenda, it doesn't sound good. But it has something it has to achieve, right? And we need to be the kind of people who say, all right, why are they giving me this? So that we can start sieving it and choose what is important and what's not important. The other thing concerning media, our minds have been tuned to sieve out the good news, and it becomes less relevant. And then the bad news becomes the thing that we portray. But the issue is not that only. The issue is also that when we see the bad news, we've so normalized it that we move on with our lives. I think that's the worst thing that humanity could do.
Damage,
Yes, because now the media has fed us a lot of terrible things that the only thing we'll do is just react instead of responding. You react to the moment, and then after that, when your emotions cool down, and you're gone.
Move on.
You know. But other people don't even look at it.
You get used to it,
You so get used to it. But also, media has given us people we should care about, and those we shouldn't care about. There are Tutsis being killed in the Congo. It's been happening.
Right now, even as we're talking, right?
Even right now as it's happening. Right. And many other people groups in other places. And you wonder, media will tell us that people are dying in Ukraine, and we all go to think about it. And for me, at times, I'm like, you know what, if you ask me such questions, I go back to where I come from. I say, you know what, I don't have much information about that, but I know about my neighborhood where I live. This is what is happening. And usually people look at you and they question you, why aren't you standing with us? And my question is, why aren't you standing with me? You see? Because some people, and Romeo Dallaire said it, he said there are no humans who are more human than the others. But we've chosen people who are more human and others who are not. To some, it's okay if they can die in large numbers.
Absolutely.
To the others, it's not okay if they can die in large numbers. And I think that's how we've been tuned. And it's not okay. It's not okay. Humans are humans. The human life is sacred. And it doesn't matter the reason. We should preserve the human life.
Absolutely.
And that is where we need to have even young people start thinking and being critical thinkers and understanding this is what's going on, but what do I take out of it and how do I respond? I'm choosing my words carefully, not saying how do I react, but how do I respond? Because a response is something that you carefully think about and then you can act, right? Because now you've refreshed your minds and then you understand. And I hope that their response will be filled with empathy, that critical thinking, but also personal responsibility. Does it stay here? Is it going to build more trust? Is it going to make us a better society? And by them doing that, then they can break the chains of violence that can keep on going in circles.
Absolutely. I just want you to tell us, like, what is Rwanda right now? You know, how you handling it? You know, from UN, everybody just name it. Rwanda shouldn't exist based on the circumstance.
Yeah.
And back onto the media before we finish, Dr. Antoine was telling me that time, because he able to forgive, you know, his genocide survived, his dad being killed, and just many things, atrocity happened to him, right? Like everybody know the 100 days genocide, but every day people being killed and discriminated, make sure they don't go to job. He went and did a master degree, and he came back. They just sent him somewhere to teach grade 3. It's instead of from university, right? Like because of his.
Yet we didn't have many people with masters.
Degrees. He was the top one. But it just like, you know, the suffering, nobody could see it, nobody talk about it. But throughout that, he able to find forgiveness. And he brought from media. That a public media, I say, like, we could buy airtime. This is a public media. Okay, let's put, you know, because everybody talk about hate. Can we, you know, bring present, like, let's censor it. Let's take a look at what you say. Then after they read, oh, you're talking about peace and love. No, peace and love is too late. There's now talking about hate and you know, killing. They refused to.
Some people did refuse.
They refused to put it in a radio and a media stuff. So. You know, can you imagine, even with the social media right now, how much could go even go faster? Anyhow, so that's something like, you know, for me, you know, you are looking for, like you were saying, like people looking for reason to kill, like, you know, putting 2-finger nose and like, you know, just your leg, whatever. But now tell us where Rwanda is. How do you able to survive from that chaos? Because 1 million people got killed. Even the number doesn't make sense if all killed Tutsi. But many nominant Hutu who not involving didn't kill. The other time you were telling me, like, you know, the youngest perpetrator was a 6 years old, and allow, you know, force him to rape 3 years old and kill with the machete others. Can you tell us what about it?
So this is in the book by the current. So it's a book about the 100 days of genocide. And there's even a podcast about it. You can use any where you receive podcasts from to listen to that. And it goes into details. This happens in southeastern Rwanda, in a place called Bugesera, where they forced this young person, this young kid, to kill a person. But going to the other part that you talked about, which is where is Rwanda at the moment? I think the idea of the current Rwanda doesn't start after 1994. I think it starts before, when the then president, the then rebel leader, current president Paul Kagame, tells his army that the people we're fighting with, we can't act like them. We can't be like them. We have to be different from them.
I like that,
So that sets already a place where it's going to go. And when the government comes into power, one of the other things is political will. The willingness of the government to make sure that people live together. And that can be seen even after the other government fell. There were over 1,500 soldiers from the other side who joined this army immediately. It's not like they have gone on, they had, no. They said, you know what? You guys didn't kill people. You're good soldiers. Let's form a national army. So from the get-go, they formed a national army that was fighting them on the other side. And they brought them together. But also, there are many activities that they did. For example, there is Imidugudu, which is like settling together. And in these estates where people are brought to live together, you might wonder what is going on. Because people are indifferent. People are scared of the other. But with that, they bring them together. Yes, and then they tell them, you know what, we're going to protect you. We're going to give you education. We're going to give you
fairness, treatment.
You know, leave alone the fairness. We're going to give you education. We're going to give you hospitals. We're going to bring markets close to you. But you come from those hills and come together. Now, for me, I not only see it as a very good thing, because this marks the beginning of the future Rwanda, where now we're talking about Abanyarwanda. We are one people. We're going back in history to look at our culture and finding who we are. But these people who are indifferent, when they come together, it's difficult for them not to talk. So now they come in with umuganda, which is cleaning. But, you know, after that, people talk, and they talk about real issues that is affecting them. Kagoro Wakababyi, where they discuss various issues. Now you've taken them from just thinking about the fear of the other, you've brought the other close to them. They're not going to be scared of that person anymore because they are no longer stereotyping them as the other who are far. There are people who live with them and they see them. So that becomes the first part. But also, they're taking away the national IDs that led to the killing of people. By taking away the IDs, you've taken away the power of ethnicity. Because we have the same names, we speak the same language. If someone is going to apply for a job and you see their
ID
marks,
then become biased,
you're not going to be biased because now it's just a name.
The name,
Right? And that has taken away the stigma from a group of people who should have been called killers. But also, it's bringing people together so that they can unite. The other thing is about trust. There are people revenged at that point in time. And there is a sad video that is on YouTube we should look up. And these young men, you know, they had revenged. And then they're like, you know what, we found they had killed our people, but now they're going also to kill us because we killed the killers. But the mere fact that they said, no, the law is the law. If you take a life, yours will be taken. And for them, they're saying, well, the people who killed 1 million people have not been taken to court yet. But they're going to kill us who rescued people. But the thing is, you've also taken a life. So these same soldiers who had stopped the genocide, who wanted to put their hands and kill other people, are also killed. And that sets the precedent. We're not going to joke with the human life. It's the sacredness of life that needs to return. And then, of course, after that, they also go to start up, you know, the Gacaca courts, forming restorative justice, knowing very well that after a few years, these people will be back. And there is a higher percentage of people who are in prison who are now outside. Some are businessmen, some are riding motorcycles, some have formed associations. And these are the people who are perpetrators, you know, a few years ago, 29 years ago. And it's very important for people or for a government to make a choice, to choose and be willing to bring people together. Because the moment had they chosen differently, then Rwanda wouldn't be where it is today. So by making that choice, that we're going to bring people together, they're going to be united, then they set a precedence for what Rwanda is going to become. But also dealing with difficult living conditions of people. You know, the life expectancy in 1994 was, I think, less than 40 years. Now, it's 69 years for men and 72 years for women. Why? Because you've brought in education, you've given healthcare to everyone, you've opened up so that everyone can be able to do business, they can be able to move. Free movement of people that had been impeded before, where people needed a paper to come from one district to the other. Now you've opened them to go and meet, you know, different people so that they can learn. So it's a choice that is made from the top, and then it comes down. Now, people like me are able to work because the environment is set. One of the things that you didn't know is that my friends and I, mostly led by a young man called Jean-Michel, he started what we call forgiveness as step reconciliation. And this was in 2000 and I think 9 or something like that. And we're taking it to different schools. But we're young people who are bringing forgiveness. And you can imagine the reception wasn't good. But also you need to understand that when a genocide happens, it breaks trust, right? It breaks the community from its root. And you need to first root it so that you can build it up. So we are young people who are bringing that. There are other young people like Albert, who has a reconciliation village in the Eastern Province, where he's brought genocide perpetrators and victims together. That reconciliation village. And he's just a young man. He lost his entire family in a church. Right? But he brings these people together and he's breaking the cycle of violence. And I would use the words of President Kagame. Those who survived the genocide are the ones who had something left to give. And what they gave was forgiveness. And because of that sacrifice, Rwanda has been able to rebuild itself. And then now we can start living and eventually thrive. So that is where we are as a nation. Are we a perfect country? I don't think so. Right? But at least there is hope for the future. There is pride in being Rwandan, which before it wasn't the case. There is the joy of living in a structured environment, an environment that where you can see positivity happening, young people having a hope for who they are going to become. And that hope, that dignity that was built, where you don't feel like you're less of a human being because you don't come from this area, from this country, but you feel like a dignified human being. I think that's the best thing that happened to Rwanda. Us thinking that we're humans again. Us thinking that we're contributors to where the world is going. Us thinking that we not only contribute to Rwanda, but we can contribute to the rest of the world. Us thinking we have open arms. We had lived as refugees for many years. That's from 1959 and those who went in 1994.
Exactly.
But we can open our arms to other people from all over the world to come to us. Why? Because those who have lived the suffering know the suffering.
Absolutely.
So we need to open our arms to everyone who comes to us. And I think it's very important where we are, but that's also the new Rwanda, where now technology
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
is thriving. Internet is there. It's open communication to young people. Give them platforms to question things, right? And as we grow, also as we take root and as our democracy grows, in the context within which we live, then we start building structures that are not only for now, but also structures that are going to live for the future, thus building resilience for the entire country. And that's Rwanda today.
So wonderful. I like the how you painted, because I do a lot of work there, and I'm inspired. I saw a lot of people, leaders coming from surrounding countries, taking course, training there, and I felt safe. I could go walk 3 a.m., I could jog, and I don't have to think in a moment, you know, my cell phone is gonna steal, somebody's gonna attack me. So that's really amazing. The transformation happened, and but what something, you know, the country like Burundi, Congo, Ethiopia could learn from that. If I just bring a situation in Ethiopia right now, even the political party, most of them organized based on ethnic line. And it's around 87 tribes and that much language. And there's so much narrative change. And people, in order to be powerful, they have to be divided and just finding in a group. So just every time you see new, even the constitution, like will just allow you even to separate being your own country. Like based on ethnic line. And language different, and even they don't agree on the national flag. They don't agree on national pride or identity or history. And education line, everything change. And the national anthem, they don't agree. Then they change, like, you know, each region have their own number plate. Like, you know, each region have the youth movement and organize the youth, like, to protect that. They don't take order from anywhere else, only from that region, from ethnic line. And each region even have the military. And sometimes the military is bigger than the national military. So whenever, like, you know, just with the narrative, they, you know, there's so much roadblock, even the free movement. There's an idea, like there's so much things, you know, issue we have. Brought so much, you know, animosity, like, you know, here and there. So what's something we can learn, and where we should stop, what we should do, like, you know, what's something, if we teach Rwanda, like, you know, 92, 91, what you're gonna just give advice, right? Like, because now I want you in that line.
So firstly, Rwanda is not there to teach other countries because our contexts are different. So since the contexts are different, then we also have to take it with a pinch of salt, because maybe some things that can work in Rwanda might not work in these other contexts. The other truth that needs to be out there is that when you divide people, eventually, you know, it's like lighting fire and playing with it, and you say it won't burn you, right? I think in Rwanda, what we've learned is that political will is a very important thing. If politicians will that they want their people to live together, people live together. People do. And that thing should not be taken for granted. Secondly, I don't think there is any issue with ethnic groups and people living in other places. The issue is that it's misused to have the interest of some at the peril, at the expense of the others. And that's the biggest issue. Because what do our people need? They need shelter.
Yeah, basic needs. Yeah.
Basic needs.
Yeah,
They
food.
need good education. They need food. They need to dress up very well. They need to have hope for the future.
Something to live for.
At times, we forget what people need, and then we start thinking of things that those leaders need themselves, which is power. And then the moment they start viewing it in the sense of power, they start using their people to get them the power instead of getting them the needs that they want. They need a good hospital that is well equipped and has all the medication. Do you have it? Could we work on that? They need good education for their children that is not expensive. Do we have it? Should we work on that? They need water. Do we have the pipes that gets them water to their houses? Do they have it, or should we work on that? They need jobs to be created. Do we have it? Should we work on that? So it's easier to create the other as the enemy. Now, in that situation where some leaders maybe have not worked to the best of their ability, it's very easy to label the other as the enemy. Now, in a place where it's divided and segregated, then it becomes more difficult because now it's even easy to identify. You've created an identifier of who the enemy is. But the thing that we need to think about is, if I get rid of you and kill you, will my problems go away?
Probably not.
Probably not. Then if the problems won't go away, then let's us start looking for the solutions for the actual problems that we have. Because the problem I have is not that you exist. No, 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 no. Because you also have the problems that I have. So if we both have the same problems, why should I come and kill you, yet I'm not going to use your poverty? As a matter of fact, the people who die most are the poor. And they're killed by other poor people.
True.
So should we keep them in poverty so that we can use them for us to have the power that we want? Or should we give them opportunities so that they can grow and even think about things that are bigger? You can imagine if someone refuses to trade with you because you're from region A in Ethiopia to region B, or because you're from region A in Rwanda to region B, or because you're from region A in the Congo and you're from region... Africa is opening up its borders so that we can trade, so that we can travel, so that we can have all these good things. If you cannot tolerate people that you share the country, will you tolerate the other Africans?
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not. And if that's the case, then what we need to learn is that there are issues that we need to resolve, and those issues are not the other. No, 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 no. It's just used as a pretext to take people's lives.
Absolutely.
For those who want to have power, to have the power. So what we need to think is, why do they tell me to think the way they want me to think? What will I get out of that? Will it build me as a person? Will it build us as a community when we get rid of them? Or will it cause the same inner fightings? Because think about it. If you kill all the people who've touched blood, will they stop killing? It's usually not the case, because now after they have killed those they called enemies, in between them they're going to fight themselves. Absolutely. Because now they're going to create inner enemies.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what we need to learn is, can we resolve the issues that really matter to us? And if we come up with solutions, and this is to young people, if we come up with those solutions, they might end up becoming the solutions that get us out of poverty. That's what we need to be thinking about. And also understanding that it's not the other who is going to make me succeed. No, 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 no. It's actually me working and them working and together working together that we're going to succeed. But this mentality of I cannot live and have when you're still existing, we should get rid of that, because there is enough in the world for you to work and succeed and for me to work and succeed, and we all rise up. But some people have made it that they want to be on top, and then they're going to use the young people to create enemies. Yeah. But tell me, if that leader has a V8 that he's driving, and his children or her children are somewhere in Europe studying, why don't you think about yourself? Because his children are not going to suffer.
Absolutely.
So if they're not going to suffer, then think about yourself. Is the actual issue the other person, or is the actual issue the difficult living conditions that I'm living through? When you get an answer, then work on that solution. And I think even government should create those areas where people can dialogue, where people can be able to exchange ideas, where people can be able to see the other, you know, instead of blocking them, instead open it up. And I love what Rwanda is doing. Open your borders.
Absolutely.
The issues that you have are not brought by other people. Mostly they are the issues that you have created for yourself.
Absolutely.
So if those issues you've created, first be responsible. Take charge of the issues you have. Take charge of the youth that you have. Take charge of the people that you have, the needs that they have. And then, empower them for themselves to bring themselves out of that poverty. Because you need, people use ignorance to misuse our people.
Absolutely.
Right? And our people have been taken captive by those people who don't want to work hard because they think if they open their minds and they know, if they have the money and the power, then we won't stay in power. But why should you misuse people and you become the only people who has something in a group of many people who have nothing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, scarcity is in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not whatever God creates, the oxygen you cannot count it, the water you cannot count, the leaf you cannot count it. There's just so much opportunity out there.
Yeah.
Just you have to be creative because God is a creator. We have to be creative in order to.
And the issue is when we start going in a direction of scarcity, then we become creative in scarcity.
Absolutely.
We find ways because
absolutely.
it's the mental thing.
Absolutely.
The moment you open your mind to now creating solutions,
Absolutely.
you start seeing problems, but you don't see people as problems. You see the real problems, and then you come up with solutions.
Then it becomes a business for you.
It might become a business.
Yeah.
It may become a project.
Yeah.
And through that, we start building. And I think that's what our young people on the continent should think about and then say, how do we make sure that we create solutions for humanity? Not just in Ethiopia, not just in Rwanda, not just in the Democratic Republic of Congo, not just in Mauritania, not just in
Egypt or like Somalia.
Lesotho
Yeah.
or Somalia.
Yeah.
But Africa needs solutions. And we have very many. And we're going to be very many years from now.
Absolutely.
So those solutions are going to be needed.
Absolutely.
Those are the things we need to work on.
Absolutely. Mark, I could talk just in hours and hours, but I know we have to limit your time. I know your time is so precious. So thank you so much for coming to our studio, and it's been a blessing to have you here. And thank you. I really, really appreciate that.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure
Thank
having you
so
here.
much.
Awesome.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, our viewers from around the world, we thank you so much for tuning. And Hamereethiopia service here. We are providing you many guests like this, and we want you to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.